Everybody, welcome back to Altcoin Daily. My name's Austin. You guys know here at Altcoin Daily, we're dropping daily videos on everything altcoin, Bitcoin, just the state of cryptocurrency today. So if you guys have ever gotten any value out of our videos, or you just want to be kept up to date on the daily doings of cryptocurrency, be sure to give the channel a subscribe. It lets us know that you're getting some value, and it helps us grow as a channel. Team, it's been a really gloomy, rainy day in LA, so I figure the best thing to do on a rainy day is to learn something. Get some value out of the day. Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash, that is today's value. And I realize that the majority of you guys probably know at least the basics between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, but it's interesting because the debate still rages on. People are very tribal, very territorial about their coin. And yes, both have a very high market cap. Both have the Bitcoin brand name. But most importantly, Bitcoin Cash, it was created to solve a problem. It was created to be a better Bitcoin. So that's what we're going to talk about. By the end of today, we're just going to have a very clear, simple explanation on Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. And, I'm no expert. This is not financial advice. But there are only so many coins we can invest in. So we're going to talk about what is the better investment in the long run. We're just going to find this information out together. And let's start right now. Well, one of the main problems with Bitcoin is its lack of transaction speed and volume. So it can't handle that many transactions. It's slower. And Bitcoin Cash was meant to be a solution. Let's check out this quote. Bitcoin went through a hard fork which gave birth to Bitcoin Cash. Now we'll discuss what a hard fork is soon, but just know Bitcoin Cash, it came out of Bitcoin. So I want to start the discussion by just talking about what exactly is Bitcoin, which leads to how Bitcoin Cash is in a sense better. What Bitcoin provided was a peer-to-peer decentralized digital currency. We know this, but check this out. The entire system of Bitcoin functions due to the work done by a group of people called miners. Now, miners are very important in the debate between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. But what is mining? Well, Bitcoin mining is the process by which transactions are verified and added to the public ledger, known as the blockchain, and also the means through which new Bitcoin are released. So mining is when the transactions, payments between you and me are verified and added to the public ledger. Mining allows Bitcoin to transact. And for a better example, let's look at this. Suppose Alice has to send 5 Bitcoins to Bob. She isn't physically sending him any money. The miners have to actually add this transaction to the blocks on the chain, and only then is this transaction deemed complete. So the miners are very important. But why is this important to the debate? Well, as we mentioned before, Bitcoin is slow and can't handle that many transactions. In fact, Bitcoins can only do about 3 to 4 transactions per second, at least back in the day. So this became a problem. Let's check this out. As you know, compared to 2009, the monthly transactions went up and up and up. So Bitcoin can only handle 4.4 transactions per second. When Bitcoin was first created, the developers put a 1 megabyte size limit by design because they wanted to cut down on the spam transactions which may clog up the entire Bitcoin network. So Bitcoin can only handle, like we said, minimal transactions. And let's compare that. Visa, for example, they can do 4,500 transactions per second. Bitcoin, 4. Big difference. More often than not, people actually had to wait till new blocks were created so their transactions would go through. This created a backlog of transactions. In fact, the only way to get your transaction prioritized is to pay a high enough transaction fee to attract and incentivize miners to prioritize your transactions. So miners are incentivized to pick the blocks with the higher transaction fees. When there's a lot of transactions and they need to make a choice, they'll pick the ones paying the higher fees because not only when they mine do they get a reward block, which is currently 12.5 Bitcoin, they also get the fees. So that's their incentive. And, for example, everybody in the world couldn't just adopt Bitcoin and buy a cup of coffee. So the idea with Bitcoin Cash is that it was faster, easier, and people would start using it for daily transactions. So Bitcoin couldn't handle daily transactions. Bitcoin Cash was that solution. And let's talk about that hard fork, because it came out of Bitcoin, but what exactly does hard fork mean? Guys, check this out with me. Well, hard fork, in the most simplified terms ever, is that it's not backwards compatible. So if this was Bitcoin, you could update and change Bitcoin, and it would just go along this route, and everybody that was here would still be able to use the old code, the old ledger. Well, a fork, not backwards compatible, takes a hard turn, and it is essentially, for all intents and purposes, a different coin. This is different in some sense. So a hard fork is different than Bitcoin, as opposed to a soft fork is the same coin, just being updated. Very simplified explanation. But let's keep going. I like to use this picture right here just to illustrate the difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And let's let this load. I don't know if you guys can hear that sound, but I just turned it off. Anyway, Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin down here, 1 megabyte. All the transactions, essentially could get clogged up, as opposed to Bitcoin Cash, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes, 8 megabytes. It was meant to solve the problem. This is a good visualization that I like to use, but let's get into the specifications. These are 3 questions that I found very valuable on the Bitcoin Cash website. Let's check them out together. Why was a fork necessary to create Bitcoin Cash? Well, the legacy Bitcoin code had a maximum of 1 megabyte of data per block, or about 3 transactions per second. Although technically simple to raise this limit, the community could not reach a consensus after years of debate. So let's just point this out. Bitcoin could have been changed, but because Bitcoin is decentralized, it needs a majority consensus, which it could not form. Was the 1 megabyte block size limit causing problems? Yes. In 2017, when the maximum transactions were taking place, fees skyrocketed. And then the last question, does Bitcoin Cash fix these problems? Yes. Bitcoin Cash immediately raised the block size limit to 8 megabytes as part of a massive on-chain scaling approach. There is ample capacity for everyone's transactions. Low fees and fast confirmations have returned with Bitcoin Cash. Very good. This does come directly off their website, but let me pose a question to you guys. If Bitcoin Cash truly did solve everything, how come that was not more widely adopted? What's the problem? Well, let's talk about it. A big problem with something with high megabytes, like Bitcoin Cash, is that the bigger the block size means the more potentially centralized a cryptocurrency is. So the threat is that because you have bigger blocks, smaller miners can't handle that transaction. It has to go to bigger mining facilities. The threat is that smaller miners would be pushed out by larger miners who could better handle the load. And if you control a large portion of the ledger, then it could be partially decentralized. Bitcoin has always been about decentralization. So this is a slight negative in Bitcoin Cash's department. People don't like that. But while Bitcoin Cash was being created, Bitcoin, they have the solution of their own, because they do realize their problem. But their solution was segwit. And segwit is a term that you guys will hear a lot when you research this topic on your own. Let me just try and break it down as simply and as easily as possible. Segwit stands for segregated witness. You have what are called blocks inside a blockchain. Blocks that show you the sequence of transactions. Segwit splits the information in 2 blocks. Segwit allows you to massively multiply what a protocol can do. So essentially, segwit adds more space. So why need Bitcoin Cash if you have segwit? Isn't segwit enough? So this was Bitcoin's answer. Is this not enough to end Bitcoin Cash? Well, there is some downsides. The downside is segwit does make those transactions more susceptible to attack. There's more area, more openings to attack and hack the system. Nobody likes their blockchain hacked. Plus, and let's put it into perspective, even if 100% of the transactions would use segwit, the increase would only equate to 1.7 megabytes. 1.7 compared to 8. Bitcoin Cash can still do a whole lot more transactions in a shorter amount of time. So those are huge differences. Let's take it back here. Segwit, 1 megabyte. Bitcoin Cash, 8 megabytes. There are some differences. What is the solution? What we just talked about is the basic kind of sense of what you need to know, but what's the better investment? Keep this in mind. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. Bitcoin is my pick. This was not the first hard fork for Bitcoin. Probably won't be the last. In my opinion, Bitcoin Cash, it's going to see rises and falls this year, and it's going to mimic exactly what Bitcoin's going to do. As Bitcoin rises in the upcoming bull run, Bitcoin Cash will too. People know the brand name best. But does Bitcoin Cash solve the problem? Yeah, kind of, it does, faster transactions, but now there are a ton more altcoins that are aiming to solve the problem too. I know specifically Dash and Zcash, a lot of them. They're doing a lot, and they want to compete with Visa, and they sure as hell want to compete with Bitcoin Cash. Where are we? So those are the differences. Those are my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys Bitcoin? Do you guys like Bitcoin? Do you guys like Bitcoin Cash? I know, the debate still rages on. Let's talk about it. If this video gave you any value at all, be sure to give it a like. It really helps me out. All right, team. I'll see you tomorrow.